After you've finished importing your vocabulary, the next step is to start building your grammar. And you can do that manually, as I showed in an earlier video. You can come over here and you can start building grammar rules here manually. But a much more efficient way to do it is to import rules from a Word document. So let's go. We want the document that we want here is all types of phrases and clauses for English. And here, okay, we want to start with nouns. The tables for the verbs are up at the top. So let's get past all of these. Let's go down to the nouns. Okay, here we go. Table number 8, participant tracking. There are, I think, 3 tables for nouns. Okay, polarity, proximity, and participant tracking. So, in a minute, we'll tell TBTA to import these 3 tables. And these sentences correspond pretty closely with what's in the grammar introduction. You remember over here, this is the very first document that you give to your MTT. A person walked. Some people walked. The person walked. No person walked. The sentences over here correspond pretty closely. A person walked. Some people walked. The person walked. There are a few more rows here. This one is plural and routine. This one is singular and interrogative. So these correspond pretty well with what's over in that grammar introduction document. But over here, as I've mentioned in previous videos, everything that's highlighted in yellow should be done by an MTT. So you should ask your MTT to translate these sentences into the target language. And then we, members of All the Word, okay, we put in these brackets and parentheses to remind you that you need to put brackets around the noun phrase, parentheses around the noun. And all of these, brackets around the noun phrase and parentheses around the noun. And then you do the same thing in the target language. So parentheses around the noun and brackets around the noun phrase in every case. And then soon, TBTA will scan through these sentences and they will build rules for you. You shouldn't change these features here. As TBTA is building these rules, it will use these features. So you shouldn't change these. You can always add more rows to a table if you need to. And in fact, for English, we don't need some of these rules, some of these rows in this table because, for example, frame inferable, you remember we collapsed this to routine, and we have routine up here. So I'm actually going to delete these 2 rows because we don't need them for English. It wouldn't hurt to leave them in, but we don't need them. So I'm going to delete the 2 rows that are for frame inferable. And when we look over here, we see noun forms, stem and plural. So we need to add the plural form. I want to save this since I've changed it. You need to save it before you import it. Before we import this table, we need to go to the lexicon and add the plural form for our nouns, and then we'll be ready to import this table. So let's go over here, and as I showed in an earlier video, we'll say forms, new form. We don't need a comment. Now we need the form rules. Let's use the grammar wizard. Add the suffix s. The tag will be plural. So here's an empty rule. This will apply to the plural form. And that's sufficient. Let's add some comments. Books, cats. That's enough. You haven't specified any grammar topics for this rule. Would you like to do that now? As I've said before, it's a very good idea to specify grammar topics for every grammar rule. But in these videos, I don't want to. It takes too much time. So I'm going to say no. Okay. So we do that, and now we have our plural form. But we need some spelling rules. Let's go ahead and add those. So form rules. Let's use grammar wizard again. Morphophonemic. When a noun ends with y, Complement of stem is I and es. So here's our rule. It will apply to the plural form. This applies to the suffix, the plural suffix. Stem changes y to I. Okay, let's enter some examples. Okay. Armies, babies. Okay, blood. Blood is a mass noun. So let's fix this by we need a feature. Count and mass nouns. So let's say new feature. And we always enter our most commonly used value first, so countable and mass. And army and baby are countable. Blood is a mass noun. Let's see, what other nouns are mass nouns? Okay, water is a mass noun. Weather, I think weather is a mass noun. Wheat is a mass noun. Okay. So now when we go back to our forms, now we can say for the mass nouns, like blood, let's write another rule that says for mass nouns, the plural form is the same as the stem. Grammar Wizard, this will be a form selection rule. Select the stem, so this will apply to the plural form. And we want to select the stem for all of the mass nouns. And let's enter some examples. Okay, and we should change this so that it only applies to count nouns, countable nouns. Okay, so armies, babies, blood, books, bricks, brothers, countries, dates. Okay, days. Now this one is just suppletive. It ends with a Y, but we don't change it. Or actually, maybe the rule is there has to be a consonant before the Y. If a stem ends with a consonant and then a Y, I don't know. For our purposes, we're going to say days. Dreams, enemies, evenings, fathers. Okay, fish, that's definitely suppletive. Fruits. I think fruit is actually a mass noun. Let's come back and change that. Fruit is a mass noun. Okay, groups, hands, houses. Johns, there are 2 Johns in the room, so we can say that. Junes. Kinds, kings. Okay, knives. There is a spelling rule here, but for our purposes, this is fine. Treated as suppletive. Languages, leaders. Okay, this is definitely suppletive. There are 2 Marys in the room. Mothers, mountains, names. Okay, people. Oops. Peters. Peters, places, problems, rivers, roosters, roots, secrets, servants, sheep. Sisters, stories, teachers. Turpin is the name of a village, a town. Things. Okay, this is. Okay, 4 p.m. Okay. When we look at our form rules, the important thing to know, okay, the suppletive rules always need to be the last one in that group. So here in the plural form, we have these rules. The suppletive rule has to be the last one. So, okay. So now we're ready to import that data. I'm going to put that in the next video. This video has been long enough. So in the next video, we'll come back And now we're ready to import these three tables.